Rhinoceros. Rhinoceros. Rhinoceros.
Alright, I think we're ready.
Oh, hello. Hi, everybody. We both paused strangely.
Yeah. We both gave each other the ability to start the intro. Neither of us jumped on the ability.
Hello, I'm Zach.
I'm Vince.
This is Nerdy Neighbors,
where we talk about nerdy culture, nerdy TV shows, comic books, anything that you're interested in.
And here's where, that's where it might apply to a wider audience. It's things we are interested in talking about that particular week.
Exactly.
There's always a blanket spoiler warning.
Yes.
Spoilers.
Yes, spoilers in effect. Kill your darlings. We will not censor ourselves too heavily unless there's something that we don't want to share for the sake of the product itself.
But out of sheer manners, at the top of the episode, spoiler warning, folks.
Correct him in depth.
All right. Well, top of every episode is news, which if you're listening to this and this is an old episode, will be very, very relevant to you and shows the longevity in which Vince and I approach the show.
Yeah.
Do you want to start?
Sure. I got 3 bits of news.
3?
3.
All right.
Ewan McGregor is going to be Black Mask in the Birds of Prey movie.
I'm stoked about that.
I am so stoked about that.
Yeah.
I couldn't care less if he does an American accent. I would rather him just do his normal. But I'd rather him be Obi-Wan. But I am super stoked for it. That guy has not been in nearly enough stuff. And the stuff that he's been in has been fantastic.
I'm putting my money down now that he's going to be doing British. Well, he's Scottish, but he's going to do like a Cagney, New York, Gothamite thing.
I completely, I definitely see that being the way that it goes because it makes more sense to do it that way in the.
It's just good. That guy needs to be in every movie.
I agree.
He can do no wrong. That was really good news. I actually don't. How much are you following that? Who's directing that?
I have no idea.
Yeah, me neither.
No I saw you.
This was the only news that.
Up on it.
Yes. Yeah. Same here. It's the only thing that showed up on my. And it's a movie, right? It's not a TV show.
It is going to be a movie.
But they're also CW is doing a Birds of Prey-esque TV show. No?
I believe so. I don't know if it's going to be Birds of Prey necessarily, but I think they're trying to expand out the female,
See that, folks? Keep coming back here. We're nothing if not thorough.
Yeah, exactly. I have 100% concrete proof of this thought that might be true. Not entirely sure. Everybody's second favorite LSD hyped up wizard, Grant Morrison, is adapting his fantastic comic book series, The Invisibles, for TV.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is not the news I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to... he's writing Green Lantern now?
Yep.
I almost brought that as actual news today, but all I would have to say about that is, yay! I might actually read a Green Lantern book now. That's never been a book that's interested me that much. Where do you land on Green Lantern?
So I read... I used to read old Green Lantern comic books.
What you mean?
Well, let me...
Oh, sorry.
Zach,
sorry.
Let me tell you what I mean here. Hal Jordan was the one I grew up with, and then we got Jon Stewart in the awesome TV series.
Did you read much of his stuff? He was, I think,
Jon Stewart stuff. No,
okay.
No. I got up to the point where Hal Jordan turned into Parallax, and then went on his whole,
That's the 90s, right?
Ish. Yeah. I mean, let's take a beloved hero and make him power crazy and a murderer.
Well, DC in the 90s, man. What are you going to do?
That's everywhere in the 90s, man.
I don't know. I would go to bat for some X-Men choices they made in the 90s.
Well, what you got?
Okay, so in the wake of all the Netflix Marvel show cancellations, and also I this isn't part of my news, but as a footnote to my news, early reports or kind of early reports on Daredevil viewership is not good.
Right.
But in the wake of all that, I read Variety this week and a couple of other sources that Marvel's going to be pushing forward some projects for the Disney streaming service.
Yep.
And they're thinking about doing. This is where it gets weird.
Yep.
So the first thing they announced was Loki and Scarlet Witch.
Correct. Yes, I heard about that.
So, but then if you do a deep dive, no one's really connected to this project. No creative force, no writers, no anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's more like this weird thing. I don't think it's a rumor per se. I think it's like a statement of intent and not an official one.
Right. I mean, it also doesn't help that one of those characters is a pile of ash and the other one's dead on a spaceship somewhere.
Yeah, okay.
Just saying.
Goku's just a Saiyan. But
Vegeta's a better one.
I agree. What, strangely enough, got announced this week, if you're listening to this, it's like towards the end of October 2018, beginning of November.
Yeah.
And they're a little bit more officially announcing a Falcon and Winter Soldier show.
Mm-hmm.
And that already has a writer connected to it. This guy's name is Malcolm Spellman. And so far, I mean, I've looked around. The only thing I can tell that this guy has done of any kind of note, which is not a comment on his career or anything like that, but just...
It says more about our researchability than it does his performance.
This is all I can find.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
And I didn't just do a quick 10-minute IMDb.
Mm-hmm.
Empire, that show Empire.
Empire's great.
Yeah, well, you like soap operas.
Yeah. But even if I didn't like soap operas,
I'd be more interested in like a Chris Yost or something like that. I mean, that's my news for this week. Is that there's this shady. Shady. It's not shady, but like there's this strange rumor mill going around about
this guy hanging out in a trench coat just writing plots for Marvel shows.
No, not Malcolm Spellman's not shady, but like these strange announcements that don't feel like they have anything really connected to it. It seems strange to me to announce intent and not we have this guy, we have this creative force. You're probably right. Yeah. I'm not saying it's not that.
I mean, of the two shows, like, obviously I'm more interested in the Loki show than I am the Scarlet Witch show.
But, Bud, isn't it weird that we hear about Loki and Scarlet Witch, whether it's rumors or substantiated, or I think Kevin Feige actually, like, did that. And then, almost a month later, we hear, also Winter Soldier and Falcon, and here's who's connected to it.
Yeah.
That makes me feel like the Loki and Scarlet Witch thing is not as solid.
I mean, probably, if I had to take a guess, I would say that they're throwing out two characters at a time to see who's pulling to see more one or the other. And then once that's gauged, you sort of keep that in your back pocket, release a couple more, see who's more interested in which of those two characters. Obviously, it's going to be Bucky, which is a real shame because Anthony Mackie, she's a treasure.
I would say the jury's out on that. I think you might be right. More people might like Sebastian Stan. I don't have my fingers on the pulse of youth culture, so I don't really know. I feel like Anthony Mackie does
as
well
a fellow
in press.
Yeah. My last piece of news is Deadly Class is getting a TV show on Sci-Fi, and I'm super stoked about it.
What's Deadly Class?
Deadly Class is a comic book written by Rick Remender, who is, you might know from the Fantastic X-Force series that he did.
Yeah.
But it's about... It's exactly what it sounds like it's about. It's about a school where you learn to survive instead of math. It's really great. It's super pulpy and fun and actiony.
It sounds slashy. It's going to be on Sci-Fi?
Yeah.
You're not worried about that? Not being cable friendly?
No, not at all. Because one of my favorite shows of, I want to say, the past year, maybe past 2 years, is a show called Blood Drive, which we've talked briefly about. I don't know if it was on podcast or off.
No,
podcast.
It wasn't off. It was off, yeah.
So
Meacham's on that, right? From Iron Fist?
Yeah.
Ward, excuse me.
Ward.
Meacham,
No,
I think is her last name.
It's not Ward. It's
it's
Hawk from from Titans. He's the one who was on Blood Drive, so it would have been on the last episode.
No, sorry, folks, that we're doing this on.
It's all good.
So what show was Ward on?
Banshee.
You're telling me I should watch Banshee.
Yeah,
don't cut that out. Make them listen to it.
Okay. Oh yeah. So one of my favorite shows that came out was Blood Drive, which is a super like pulpy, fun, dumb romp, like blood, death race style.
Right.
So I'm super stoked to see what they do with Deadly Class.
Deadly Class. I'll look into that. I bet you I love Remender's stuff.
Yeah.
Not just the X-Force.
I've got a couple pieces of homework. I don't know if that's what I'm going to give you. I might actually hold out for the premiere to give you that as homework.
Yeah. Well, you might not need to.
Yeah. Well, I have other... It's weird because once I saw that, I started to go back so I could reread Deadly Class. And then I realized that I have 2 books that are just kids in a school that's trying to kill them. Like, I have 2 series like
Right.
that. There's Deadly Class, and there's a series called Morning Glories by Nick Spencer, who's one of my favorite comic book
It's
artists
a
ever.
fun setting.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like isekai in anime. I don't know if anybody else is doing that, but
Yeah. Now that you say that, vamp for me for a second. Well,
Sure.
you don't have to vamp. I need to show you this. My brother listened to our second episode today. Shout out. And
shout out to brother
Joe,
the brother.
I call him JoJo. Look at that right there.
Oh yeah, dude, I watch a ton of anime.
My brother, for the listener, my brother went, does Vitch watch anime? Yeah, he wants to be on for an anime episode.
That's
talk about it.
super cool with me.
So that's the end of news.
Yeah, that's the end of our news.
So, this week's theme.
Yeah.
This week's
topic.
Yeah, topic is way better for today's episode. It is Daredevil.
Daredevil, the Marvel series through Netflix exclusively, not the comic book run.
We will only probably talk about the comic in reference to the television show. I don't think we're going to really take it. It's a long-running comic, and I have a familiarity with it, but mostly with the stuff that's come out in the last decade. And I can't speak for Vince. I don't know where he lands in the comic. It's no X-Men for me. Where X-Men, I could go without research for days.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I read the Mark Waid series. I read a bit of Daredevil Yellow, I believe.
Yeah, I've read that stuff.
Yeah,
I
read all the stuff that all my other nerdy friends were like, "Oh, you have to read this."
See,
I never took it.
Committed to the book from like 2003 to 2003-ish.
Okay.
No. There was 5-6 years that that was every Wednesday. The Wednesday of the month that came out. I was stoked about it.
I dig it.
There was around the time that Civil War came out.
Mm-hmm.
Civil War was happening. Was a big renaissance for me and like everyone else my age for comics. And I got really, really every Wednesday there was 3 or 4 books that were coming out that I needed to get.
List. I get it.
Yeah. But we're going to talk about the show.
Yes. So, do you want to break it down by season? I think that might be.
I think it's probably the best place.
Okay. So
it's the most logical place.
Season 1. Well,
critical hit.
It is so good. It still holds up. The intro to this show is so good that I am almost mad Netflix has a skip intro button because it's blasphemy against the wonder.
Well, remind me of the intro. What's the first episode intro?
Well, no. I mean,
you mean the theme? Oh, the theme song.
Yeah, the theme song.
It's perfect.
Just the introduction in itself, with the blood falling over everything, casting the figures.
And Blind
makes
Justice
me
statue.
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
So good.
It
reminds me of Hannibal in the beauty of the introduction.
Right.
Like, that's one thing that it feels like they set out and they said, we are going to make a great show from the time somebody hits play to the time it says next episode.
Yeah,
yeah, it's wonderful.
And it's so on theme. It's so it's so on topic for the world that you're joining.
Yes,
and artistically, it is like it's also the song in itself. The way it's slowly paced out while at the same time being very intense.
Yeah, and it builds up, and it has like that almost orchestral like vibe to it, like you're in a church. Like it's
a great point, man. Yeah, it is very churchy too.
We meet all of our main players. We meet Charlie Cox as the titular Daredevil, fighting out of his wonderful real life comic book accurate attire, where he's just in basically a black sweater, black sweatpants.
So exciting first season. But like, what was also exciting about that was like, oh, this is comic accurate for the Frank Miller stuff, and this is going to go someplace because at the time, the cover of it was him in the red mask.
Correct.
So I was like, that's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to put that out there for something we're going to talk about later.
So we were also introduced to Foggy Nelson. We're introduced to Karen Page, who were pretty regular comic book staples in the Daredevil series.
Karen's a damsel.
Yeah.
In this
and
episode.
She is, and I like how she develops throughout the series itself. But then we're also introduced to my personal standout, one Wilson Fisk,
Yeah.
Vincent D'Onofrio,
Yeah.
plays this character. He has all that rage behind every word.
Yeah.
And he has this passion, this drive behind him, and he's just a force.
Yeah.
Like, he's not a man anymore. He is a force that has to be dealt with, and he isn't dealt with.
His posture is insane.
No,
if you pay attention,
so
him and Ray Fiennes, best posture in the game for my money. But I think posture is a big thing for him in the way he characterizes his different characters, and his posture. He really does look like an animal. I think we talked about Thanos a little bit in one of these episodes.
Yeah,
and
it looks like a Graven vest.
I was talking about like the imposing
figure that he cuts,
and how much of that is just whatever Josh Brolin is doing, and it's the same thing with D'Onofrio. I actually think more so.
I think definitely more so D'Onofrio. Because when you compare it to like his other roles that he's been in, like his Full Metal Jacket and
other roles,
Men in Black, even like he's a wonderful actor, but this role I was terrified. I was terrified of Kingpin.
Yeah.
So the main,
and I didn't realize how tall he was.
Yeah,
he's a tall guy.
He's heckin' huge, dude.
Yeah, man.
But so the main plot of the first season is figuring out who is causing Karen Page all this strife. They end up having to sort of circumvent they being Matt in the Daredevil persona ends up fighting his like straight level crime, and it introduces you to the world that you're going to be in. Perfect.
Well, here's what I think it does, without going into the nitty gritty. Here's some great things I think it does, as far as not just world building, but also establishing tone. A big thing, not theme, but a big hurdle for our protagonists in the first 8 episodes is figuring out that there even is a Kingpin.
Correct, right. He's just like,
he's
a whisper in the wind.
Phenomenal writing. It's if you're a fan, it's, I feel like these guys get this character. And if you're not a fan, you're understanding the depth of his power.
Yeah.
And it is in anonymity, which you don't see that often. It's not like, I mean, Voldemort, you're not supposed to say his name because it's cursed. It's not, don't say his name because he doesn't want you to know about him.
Right. Everybody knows about him.
It's the greatest trick the devil ever pulled type of thing. Mm-hmm. But really put into action, really put into function in Daredevil. People talk about that all the time, and it's a big cliche in movies. The way you communicate that to an audience that nobody thinks he existed, while we, the audience, have seen him existing for the last hour, is have a character goes, nobody even knows he exists. That's not really what they do in Daredevil.
No.
We see him existing, and we see him how he stays off the radar. And it makes the functionality of that cliche very palpable in that show.
Yeah, I also like that it immediately starts Matt off on a back foot.
Yeah.
Like, Matt Murdock, Daredevil, he's a force for good. He has the whole Catholic guilt thing behind him.
His Catholicism is important. That's why
it is very, I completely agree. But you have him starting off, and he's just like, he's going after gun runners and human traffickers and things like that. But there's a corporation that he's up against that is aware of him that he isn't aware of.
Well, let's talk about some of the... Were you done?
No, by all means.
So there's some great, almost vignettes that happen in the first season of Daredevil that I think is part of the reason why it was such a critical darling, and part of the reason why, in ultimately a bad way, they might have accidentally set the bar too high.
2 words. Hallway fight.
Well, that's one of them. But I would also argue that, again, with these vignette scenes, I would argue that You know what? The one I'm going to bring up last is the easiest one to throw away, but one of them is definitely. This is less a vignette, but more of this artistic, not just theme, but let's call it theme. I'm sorry for bumbling so much. Yeah. Is Fisk staring at that painting, the nothing painting? Right, and it's always these pointed moments when that happens.
Rabbit in Snow, I believe is what it's called.
Yeah, and the series builds in a way where we, the audience, are going on this journey of he's fascinated with this image, he's fascinated with this woman, and then there's this build up, and then climax of, he used to have to stare at a wall when he was punished. And then, of course, it wraps up in the season the way it does. We can talk about that later. Mm-hmm. But then one of the vignettes I wanted to talk about is Madame Gao's blind, drug-runny slave people.
Yep. And
the scene where he's being driven around by Russian mob, literally henchmen.
Yep.
And he's singing some song.
Mm-hmm.
And the camera's shot, it's shot behind him. So we also see these, as the Russian guys are reacting to him and kind of talking to each other, we see Daredevil to the left. Swoop over to the camera, shot swoops over to the right. Swoop back over to the left, he's fucking gone.
Yep.
Swoops back over to the right. Just these moments that are so pointed and so visceral.
Correct.
That it's you can't ignore it, you can't experience it if you're watching it. If you don't know what Daredevil is, if you're a person who just walked into the room and sat down and started watching this, you're engaged.
Yeah, I agree. I would almost disagree to the point that you can't experience it. That the wonder of those scenes is that you could walk in from off the street not knowing anything about these characters, watch one of those scenes, and instantly you get this feeling of he's a boogeyman to the bad guys. He's Batman. Like, that's how I feel about it. But I feel like we're spending too much time on season 1.
Well, no. Well, let's sum up and then wrap up. Because I also don't feel like the big picture of what Fisk is doing is he's doing this kind of strange consolidating of power. And we find out at the beginning of the season that he's pulling the strings on kind of the main crime organizations in New York. The Japanese, the Russians, the Chinese.
Irish,
Russian. Thank you. Yeah. Also, don't want to not say this. The great flashback scene of the Russian brothers breaking out of Russian prison by using a piece of rib cage.
Yep.
Talk about tone defining.
Exactly. There are so many individual, just wonderful bits of writing.
That's why I don't want to blaze over it. Well, Karen becomes a leak.
Correct.
Matt becomes involved.
Yes.
Fisk is doing a lot of big picture moves, but he's not a guy who likes loose ends.
Right.
So they also keep trying to wrap up the Karen thing. Daredevil becomes more and more of a force to be reckoned with.
Right. More of a
Fisk has to reckon with him.
Mm-hmm.
And it culminates in Daredevil truly becoming Daredevil in image as well as form. He's got his red suit. It's a Kevlar suit that Melvin Potter, the Gladiator, made for him.
With the little nod towards Stiltman in the background.
Yeah, but also that's Melvin Potter, the Gladiator, man. Like they get into a fight and he throws a saw blade at him.
Yeah,
it's
a little bit later on, but yeah,
perfect. No, that happens in the first season.
Oh, does
they fight?
Oh yeah,
because it's a huge. Yeah. Well, because that's that's the Gladiator's thing. He throws these discs of death at you. He also has a Gladiator poster up in his.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. And then he there's kind of a cool reveal of that where Matt is fighting Fisk and he can't get through Fisk's special Kevlar suit and he backtracks where
it came from.
Anyways, the suit's important to me.
No, I get it.
We talked about it in Titans.
Yeah.
Like in this genre, you have goofy looking things sometimes and you have to deal with it.
Right. And they tackle that suit that should not work. Perfectly. Yeah. It's almost as good as the Ben Affleck one.
So then we go to the second season.
So
we open the second season, Fisk is in jail.
Yep.
Murdoch and Nelson and Murdoch.
Nelson and Murdoch, yes.
Is busy, but in the heartwarming way you would imagine it would be.
Yeah, the office, chickens,
yes,
fish.
The office is full of what you would consider people who might need help and couldn't necessarily afford it.
Right, it's a barter system.
Karen works there. They're a big happy family.
Yeah, she's an office manager.
Yeah.
So season 2 is split into 2. There's the first half, which is Daredevil versus Punisher. And then there's the second half, which introduces us to Elektra.
Let's talk about the rooftop scene.
Let's talk about probably the best scene in the season. Which has Daredevil, who has been tracking down Punisher because the first time we're introduced to Punisher, I believe he guns down the entirety of the Irish mob.
He does.
Daredevil tracks him down and finds out that he is staying at he's staying in an apartment building. The Punisher is on the roof. Daredevil comes up to him on the roof, and they begin to have this conversation. And it's the conversation that everybody who isn't Batman wants to have with Batman, in that, well, why don't you kill people? I'm in your position. I'm going to kill these people. Blah, 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 blah.
Which is a reference to a Garth Ennis,
yes,
Steve Dillon comic,
yes.
And it's not word for word the same, but the spirit of it is there.
Is exactly there. It is a perfect homage.
And I would say we haven't talked enough about Charlie Cox yet, but let's get into it.
Sure.
It's not an easy role.
No.
And it's very demanding, and he's on screen for, I would say, probably 70% of the show.
I'd agree with that. So
it is hard, I think, to not be repetitive, and not and keep it what's the word I'm looking for? Keep it appealing. Keep it being
enthralling. Keep it keep
something we want to watch.
Yeah.
Engaging. Thank y'all.
Yeah.
So that being said, sometimes it's a bit of it's tough with him.
Right. So I've heard that online. I've heard that, like, during the season arc that had the Punisher in it, Matt was very repetitive in the way that he sees things. And my argument against that is people are repetitive by nature.
Right.
If you have a belief system, one that's been ingrained into the way that Catholicism has been ingrained into Matt, they're not the 7 really bad sins. They're the 7 deadly sins. He refuses to do the one that will permanently send him to hell.
You'll get no argument from me as far as that. I'm talking performance.
Yeah, well,
because his performance is also, it's not just the writing. Sometimes his performance feels very stilted. To me,
right,
not the case on that roof.
No,
they really give him, and I blame the writers. You give this guy something to work with, and he will deliver.
Yes,
I mean he's like facetiously laughing at stuff that it Punisher, and it's also not for nothing, it's not two slouches. You give 2 good actors something to chew on. Man,
they make it work. I would watch an entire series that's just that night. Like, just spread out across the season.
It's beautifully done. I cannot say enough. Like, Matt's frustration with, especially when he finds out that he's Catholic. Wait, you're a Catholic?
Yeah.
And
how could you?
Not so much how could you, but like, wait a minute. We speak the same language.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a how could you.
I take it more of like, well, now I can unpack this.
Okay, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I took that more as like,
yeah. Now we have some common ground. I can.
Yeah.
Oh, that's definitely the lawyer half of Matt.
I have the key to this,
right?
Catholic mother chunker. But John Barenthal, that's another part. So, not to get away from Daredevil, I did not watch the Punisher series.
Okay, I watched the entire thing.
I have a hard time with guns.
Yes,
sometimes.
we've talked about this last episode.
So, if they're shooting lasers, I seem to have no problem.
Right, yeah, exactly.
The second it's bullets and stuff, I get a little skeeved out sometimes.
As soon as somebody sets their phaser to bullet, it's when It's when Mr. Zach takes a step back.
And it's not a... anyways, I think he does a really good job of a modern interpretation of Punisher.
Yeah.
I don't know fan reaction that much. It must have been positive because the guy got his own series.
Yeah.
But
the series was greenlit before the season even aired, though. So
I thought that.
Yeah.
I thought that was true.
Yeah.
But
even still,
he's so good in that scene as well. In that second series, I feel like he falls into the same, and again, I blame the writing more than I blame the performers. He falls into the same pitfalls of the performance feels very repetitive, where he starts out a certain way emotionally, it climaxes a certain way emotionally, and the action,
aftermath.
Yeah, it feels the same way. And look, you can boil down almost any television show that way.
Right.
I bring it up with Daredevil because I don't know who's watching the show once a week. I don't. I watch like 4 hour. I watch it until I get tired of it.
Right.
So when you watch it that way, you start to notice these patterns. They feel more pointed.
Okay.
And that end of statements. That's kind of all I wanted to say. Was like that rooftop scene isn't just brilliant because some of the other stuff is boring.
Right.
It's brilliant because it's brilliantly written. It's brilliantly performed, and it truly, 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 for me, is hitting all the bullseyes I want them to hit for what I want out of a Daredevil show.
Yeah. So I'm going to devil's advocate here a little bit, because as somebody who's seen the entire Punisher show from start to finish, you're right on point in that Punisher doesn't change. Like, he has no growth, but that's exactly what I want from Punisher. I don't want Punisher to realize, oh, well, there are some good criminals and not everybody gets a fair shake or whatever. He's Rorschach. He sees in black and white. If you commit a crime, he's going to start at murder, work his way back to jaywalking, and if you fall on that list, you're getting shot in the head.
I don't disagree with that.
Like, that's what I look for. Anytime you pick up a Punisher comic, you can assume that Punisher is in that state of mind.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to be hurt because they hurt somebody else.
Yeah.
And the fact that in the show, he can experience character growth, but it doesn't affect his overall, like, his oeuvre, like, his state of being. I adore it. That being said, obviously, the rooftop scene is the best scene, maybe in a Marvel Netflix show to date.
Boy, it'd be hard for me. Nothing pops to mind. I think you might be right. Nothing really springs to mind. It might be the most perfect thing. But I also think Elektra's executed and done really well in second season.
Yeah, I would agree that Elektra in the second season was really great. I feel as though in Defenders she did kind of get...
No.
I know. But what I'm saying is, like, when I look at a character, I don't just examine one thing that they're in. I examine them as
we're just talking about Daredevil.
I get it, but you can't not talk about Defenders. This is Daredevil
and
Elektra.
But we have to. That is...
Right, so what I'm saying is, in Season 2, the back half of Season 2 that introduces Elektra to us, I agree. She's well written. I like her as...
I'm sensing something from you.
Sure.
What is it? You didn't like Elektra?
I didn't...
Tell the truth.
I didn't like Elektra in... I didn't like Daredevil. I didn't like Defenders. I just didn't. I didn't enjoy it. I don't think that it shouldn't exist. I'm sure that there are people out there who did, but I didn't enjoy the...
I think your Vando guy poisoned you against Defenders.
Yeah, maybe. But in Daredevil, I think that Elektra has done very well.
All right, I love... Number one, they reference her in season 1.
Correct.
With a college flashback, which for me was very exciting. Because even if it didn't mean we'll see Elektra eventually, it meant like they were at least aware that it occurred. And that's the kind of fluff that will always send me over the moon. That is
exactly.
That is a key to my heart.
Yeah, not everything needs a story arc right away.
Yeah, but also just referencing something that happened in the comic that also won't necessarily throw off the narrative or even the point to the scene. Which the point to that scene was, oh, look at Foggy and Matt. They're college buddies.
Right, exactly.
Because that was the college buddy episode.
That's how they came up.
Foggy finds out, oh, you're superpowered.
Right.
But and I'm gonna murder her name because I think she's French and also Korean. But Elodie Yung, who plays Elektra,
correct,
is phenomenal. And I think while I have complaints, isn't quite the word. Well, fine, hold it. Let me get this out.
I'm holding.
Look at you,
holding that thought.
Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! You're gonna burst. You're gonna fly around this room, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I have thoughts.
I think I would say that pound for pound, her performance is better than the rest of the actors in that season. I think she's given better stuff. I really do. I think somebody on that team was excited to write for Elektra and had no idea what to do with everybody else, especially Karen, who gets short shrift on the show constantly.
Season 2 was not Karen's season.
I don't think season 1 was that much.
Season 3 is Karen's season.
We'll talk about it.
We will talk about it. Okay. Run me through real quick. Does she die in season 2?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then she comes back in Defenders.
Yes.
Okay. Then I will grant you that. I do not agree that I think that she was better written than Matt or
people were excited to tell her story.
You know, I 100% agree with that.
Wait a minute. When was the last time you watched it?
Season 2?
Yeah.
Probably a couple months ago.
Well, for me, it was longer. But what about the James Bond episode where they have to break into this fancy...
Yeah, no, listen, the story that they tell is fantastic. But to say that she was better written...
She's better written and better performed.
I think better performed, you can lend credence to that. I think better written, I don't agree.
But, buddy, I feel like people were excited to write about her. They were excited to be like, what was she like when she was trying to turn Matt?
Right.
Not evil, but into a soldier.
Yeah, Asian.
What was she like when... What is she like post that? What type of soldier is she? What excites her? What type of person could live this life but also be somebody that incites the amount of passion that she does in this very, very tightly wound man?
Right, yeah, no, I agree. I just think that Matt was better written in that season overall. I think they had
better stuff for him to deal with.
Yeah, and I think him overcoming it led into his being a more developed character.
Buddy, I don't know. Some of that felt very... What do you mean by him overcoming it? Let's explore that for a little bit. And I'm not holding your feet to the fire. I'm wondering, so for me, that season felt more like less of him overcoming it and more like him hunkering in and doing that classic Murdoch thing.
Matt Murdoch thing.
Yeah. Exactly. Just it flows over him.
Yeah.
Life happens to Matt. He doesn't.
Right. Right. Matt doesn't happen to life. Life happens to Matt.
He tries to happen to life, but he doesn't do it in a good way.
Exactly. Yeah. And that happens throughout the season. That's the theme of Matt, is he just wants to help, but he can't sometimes, and he can sometimes, and when he does help sometimes, it hurts other times. I think that theme running through,
right?
I think that is leading into Matt being a better character overall.
Then, before we talk about season 3,
sure.
Do you think that is? I think so. When you said that now, beautifully articulated.
Thank you.
And I think very accurate. And I think one of the pitfalls of the show.
Right.
I think one of the problems of the show is, I don't want to say that Matt doesn't change, and I also don't want to say, because I actually think he does.
He does change.
Yeah. So I think watching a guy grapple with essentially the same thing over and over and over again, while it might work in a comic book,
right,
doesn't serve very well in a television show. So, while I wouldn't have known that going into my first season, and also coming out of that first season and being so in love with it, and being like, oh, they can do no wrong, Marvel's perfect. They got the Midas touch, baby.
Everybody stop making other shows and just make Daredevil.
Everything you do is perfect. No, make all the shows. Give me Iron Fist. It's going to be great. I can't wait. It was the thing I was most excited about. Not to digress. I was so excited about Iron Fist. And I was a bit disappointed with that. I really do think it's weakness isn't the word, but I do think it's what can make it feel like, oh, I'm not excited to watch this. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that? Do you think that might be me reading into it too much? Do you think that might be me being a little bit too? Maybe am I too aware of what they're doing? Am I like too smart for the show?
Meta? I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it comes down to you putting it up on a pedestal. Like,
you might be right.
I ran into that issue with Better Call Saul. I was a huge fan. I still am a huge fan of Breaking Bad, which they might be making a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Weird, but
I saw that in the news today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A weird choice, but
he died. Right?
Not what we're talking about. He died.
Well,
the movie's supposed to follow Jesse.
Let's allow this tangent. Oh.
The movie's supposed to follow Jesse Pinkman after he gets freed by a bunch of neo-Nazis. And
I'm a Nazi now, bitch!
That's not how that would work. He did not have a good relationship with those Nazis. But yeah, no, his character's already, like, hit his maximum. He doesn't need to go through anymore because he's fully realized. Like, that car could have just driven into Nirvana. Like, he's fully actualized.
The Breaking Bad movie is a prequel to Need for Speed.
I will throw up money onto my theater to watch that.
I'll buy every seat in the house.
God.
Breaking Bad, and then in parentheses, I don't know, what would you call the prequel for Need for Speed?
Want for Go Vest. I hate that we're so similar. Getting back to what I was
Daredevil.
Getting back to what I was talking about. I don't even remember what I was talking about.
Well, we were talking about the pitfalls of the... You were saying I put it up on a pedestal, which you might be right about.
Yeah, so I think that you putting this pressure on it, and then with it following through with the excellent first half that we got, and then you got to realize your fully actualized Elektra, the rest of the show, i.e. the main character of the show, can't keep up.
Well, okay.
But, like, viewing it through the lens of, I'm going to watch a TV show and hope I enjoy it without any strings attached to it. That's how I went into it. Like, even after I saw Daredevil Season 1, which I adored from start to finish, watching Daredevil Season 2, I didn't think, oh, well, first season was fantastic. Obviously, second season is going to be potentially even better. I went into it as season 1 was pretty good, and I assume season 2 is probably going to be pretty good. But you know, people suck.
I think I experienced it as I experienced it. I appreciate a lot of what you're saying.
Right. It's weird that you're pulling out that gun, though. What?
I really don't think I did. I really do think. Wait, that sounds too adversarial. I'm going to start that over again. I think there's a lot of credence.
You watched the show wrong.
No. I think there's a lot of credence to what you're saying.
Right.
Daredevil Season 1 might have put a high bar.
Right.
It really might have.
Correct.
But I despite what you think of me, I really do come into things like I want to like him. I want to...
Okay. Who's being adversarial now?
Yeah. I could just see... I could see having the 10 or 12 conversations you've had with me and being like, this fucking guy.
No, that's not at all what I think. I know that everybody wants to enjoy stuff. Maybe with the exception of like CinemaSins. Like, everybody wants to go into something saying, I had the best time. Like, that's bar none the best experience I've ever had. Nobody wants to go in saying, oh, I wasted my time doing this. So I get where you're coming from in that.
I guess what I'm saying is, and what I can tangibly point to.
Correct.
And not just go, oh, I had this feeling. Is the guy's, Chris Cox's performance.
Charlie Cox's performance.
Chris Cox. Wow. Charlie Cox's performance is so uneven. And I blame that on the writing. And I feel like it's more pronounced in season 2. And again, I think because it was a little bit more, I don't want to say exciting and make it sound like the writers are dum-dums.
Right.
I think it was easier to sit down and go, what's motivating these people, and how do I stay? It's difficult. How do you stay true to Matt? How do you stay true to a guy who has this, who should have this kind of overwhelming need to be Daredevil, this mission, right, which is a word you'll probably hear on this podcast all the time when we're talking about superheroes. Right. But I'm not saying, oh, those writers are stupid. I'm saying as my experience, there's this flaw I'm seeing in the show. And I think it will be more pronounced once we start talking about season 3.
Exactly. You want to talk about how to stay honest to Matt Murdock. Season 3. Season 3 is so... It's just the Matt Murdock story. That's all it is. In my opinion, season 3 of Daredevil rivals season 1.
Well, I haven't finished it, but I don't mind if you spoil it for me because I'm almost done.
Yeah.
I watched
what
some
episode
of it
are you on as of recording?
11.
So you have one episode left?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's fine.
I feel like I know where it's going.
I shouldn't. Probably. You're a smart guy.
Mm-hmm.
But season 3, we are introduced to Matt after the events of the Defender series. He had New York fall on him and lived to tell the tale. He is being nursed back to health in the church where he grew up. He is decided that he is Matt Murdock no more.
It's just this agent of justice.
He is just Daredevil.
Unless God can stop him.
New York doesn't need Matt Murdock anymore. New York needs Daredevil. That's it. He's resigned himself. Boom. That's it. Wilson Fisk is currently in prison, but through beautiful...
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Should we go back and talk about the Fisk episode in season 2?
Sure.
I feel like we should.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
It might be the best episode of season 2. Next to the rooftop episode.
Next to the rooftop episode, yeah.
Yeah,
I'd agree.
Because it's this don't forget episode, and it's in one episode the guy conquers the fucking prison.
Correct. Yeah. We should start a drinking game that we drink every time we say correct.
I'm doing it then.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess fine. I mean, I guess that's all we're saying.
It's
a great Fisk episode in season 2.
If there's any... Okay, we'll get to this at the end where we recommend what to watch of Daredevil. I think we should do that.
Okay.
But season 3, we have Wilson Fisk in prison. He's being investigated by an FBI agent who's currently struggling with family issues. And in a brilliant political move pulled straight out of House of Cards, we have...
Those idiots, they didn't realize I was the kingpin of crime the entire time. I would find out that they need money because their sister has cancer and that their son wants a pool because his friends have a bowling alley. I'm looking right in the camera.
Yeah. I get the Underwood.
I've never seen that show.
You've never seen House of Cards?
Nope. I can, as long as I can make fun of it, I'm on board.
Yeah, no worries. So, Wilson Fisk has enough information about this. He has enough foresight that he realizes he's going to jail. So he needs to get leverage. So he takes an FBI agent's health insurance, manipulates it so that his sister, who is battling cancer, can't afford to pay her bills. He has to pay her bills, which puts him into a tight financial situation, which eventually leads to him being overzealous to catch Fisk so he can get a promotion in order to...
Well, overzealous to milk Fisk for information.
Correct, yes.
Fisk has put himself into the perfect position of being a slab of meat for this starving man. A oasis for a man lost in the desert. And it also kind of established brilliantly in a scene where they kind of established that this guy's in debt and he tries pushing a promotion. Mm-hmm. And his boss says, well, you're in debt and that makes you...
A liability.
Yes. So you probably won't get a promotion.
Right.
And which makes Fisk's information...
all the more valuable. To save running through the entire series, Wilson Fisk is shanked in prison, so he barters to get himself put up into a hotel that one of his shell.
Well, he can't tell the feds things if he's dead.
Yeah, exactly. They need him around because he's taken bad guys off the streets.
He also got shanked because he already has fed them some information.
Correct. Yes.
So that's important.
I agree.
He can because he set up that shanking.
Yeah.
But he made it. You have to get me out of here. Everyone knows I'm a rat.
Everyone knows. Yeah,
I can't abide my decisions affecting the ones I love.
Oh my goodness, I'm getting chills. Oh, somebody say Mufasa.
I'm sorry, my friend. Please.
No worries. So he maneuvers himself to get out of prison. He gets put under house arrest, and he continues to roll on his associates who are in reality protecting criminal politicians, which he then uses to vie for more power by offering these politicians and these underworld figures his protection instead. If you want to see somebody set up dominoes from 8 years ago and flick over one to start the reaction, Daredevil Season 3 is a masterwork.
This is my favorite type of bad guy. Is the moves.
Xanatos type.
Yes, yeah, the moves and counter moves. It's a writing cheat that I always appreciate because I don't feel as cheated when they go, dude, you've been vulnerable this entire time. You don't see it, and then I, as the audience member, go, oh, of course,
it was so obvious.
I really love it. And it was for me more interesting to watch than anything Matt was going through.
Oh, man, I really liked Matt's arc in this.
It was so bloody transparent that it was hard for me to go through it with him emotionally because I just wanted him to get to the finish line.
I can agree with that.
And that's my biggest thing with this season was, I feel like Matt has spent more time on the outs with Foggy and Karen than he has on the in. Mm-hmm. So their commitment to him doesn't feel very real to me. Well, it doesn't feel realistic.
Yeah, I agree.
Foggy maybe more than Karen. But then again, there's stuff in her character, I see both sides, but when I'm watching it, I'm not experiencing it. What I'm experiencing is myself going, why would you keep paying that rent?
Desperation.
Look, yeah, I can see it. No. I can see both sides. I can't. I'm not going, bullshit!
Yeah.
I call nonsense on this! But there is part of me there's part of me that goes, I wish I saw more stuff with these people getting along and being a team together. Rather than, this kind of like fun...
in season 1.
Yes, a bit. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit. I wish I got more of it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so you don't feel as though the payoff was...
Well, it would feel like more... It would feel like more connect... Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. More connective tissue. More kind of like... I'm not saying I want a clip show, but if you could have a flashback or two of these people being a team, getting along, having fun together, having human moments, it would feel more real to me.
It's weird. That the one scene from it was either the end of season 1 or the beginning of season 2, where the guy comes in and pays for his service in fish. That was what sold me. I'm like, they're buddies. They're going through a rough patch, but they know that they can rely on each other for anything at any given time.
More stuff like that. I really do.
I get why you would need more of it.
And I'm not complaining, too much melodrama. Right. I actually think a show like this really calls for a lot of melodrama.
I agree.
I mean, you have the perfect opportunity to do courthouse drama and superhero drama. So it's fine. It's called for. Mm-hmm. But it wouldn't hoit to like have some laughs.
Letting out your inner benders.
Have some buddy moments with Foggy and Matt. Have some aha moments with
so
Karen.
many of those with the college episode.
Yes,
I feel like
that's one episode that was 4 years ago.
Yeah, and you just see that their relationship hasn't changed.
Was it 4 years? It's 2018. No, it was 2 years.
2 years ago. Yeah. But their relationship hasn't changed. If anything, it's budded and grown since then. Because they know
Buddy, I think you're doing that thing that I will constantly accuse of you.
I think you're doing the opposite. I think that you are viewing Season 3 as its own separate thing instead of viewing Season 3 as a part of an overarching series.
But I feel like Season 2, they spent, Foggy and Matt specifically, spent so much time fighting. So much time arguing. Rightfully so. Foggy was very much rightfully mad at him.
I agree.
And, but like, there's so much more time spent on the problems and less time spent on what makes these people a team.
I feel as though their ability to get over the problem is them being a team.
I can't argue against that. I can only say that doesn't land as hard for me.
Okay, regardless, we have the issue that stems. You have the issue that stems from you don't think that there was enough family building moments in order to justify the end.
Well, just to clarify, we can move on after this. Right. I do find myself questioning everyone's loyalty to each other. Okay. Everybody. Maybe less with Foggy and Karen. Because they're kind of, they have something. Yeah. Of like a joined experience.
Correct. Drink.
But yeah. I really feel like it would help the series so much to have a little bit more charm.
I want to talk about the second.
Oh, I broke him.
Yeah, the second most standout character in Season 3. Special Agent Benjamin Poindexter, aka Bullseye.
I have very little complaints.
Watching that man's tragedy unfold filled me with such glee.
Yeah, I have very little complaints about this. It was a curveball? Was it a curveball for you?
It was a literal curveball because he kills people with
Pun intended! We're firing on all cylinders tonight, buddy. We're both tired. It doesn't matter.
Goodness. It's the "Who are you? I'm Daredevil" scene. Stole my breath. There was a moment where I saw that scene. I said, "Oh, shit."
Right.
That was amazing.
Well, can I just say, on the face of it, here's what I thought I wanted. I thought I wanted a guy who was a sociopath.
Right.
Which they gave you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't know, like,
it was watching
depth.
It was
too, which I didn't know was going to happen.
Right. You weren't just watching you weren't watching Colin Farrell. I want a bloody costume or whatever. I don't do accents.
I can do a serviceable Irish one, but I won't.
You're welcome, fans. But they gave us a guy who was trying his best. He was trying his best, and then he ran into Wilson Fisk.
Yeah.
And we all know the end of the story.
Yeah.
Because it all ends the same way. If you run into Wilson Fisk, your life gets worse. That's just the way it is.
I would have said before the season started, I want him to be as two-dimensional as possible. I want him to be a killer for killer's sake and all that kind of stuff. Like, I did not know I wanted him to be a killer for killer's sake, but he didn't know why he was that.
Yeah. And that he hated himself for it.
Well, no, I don't think he hates himself, and I think this is what's a little bit more fun about the character is he knows that is not the right way to be. Right. I don't think he hates himself.
Okay,
I think he just knows.
Maybe I was using the wrong terminology by saying he hates himself, but
I'm not correcting you.
He doesn't want to be that way.
That's what's fun about the character. I don't even know if it's a want thing. And again, I'm not correcting him. Mm-hmm. I really think it's he just understands that if the world is a puzzle and he's a piece in it, he's not flipped quite the right way.
Right.
And he would like to be flipped the right way.
Yeah.
So whatever that means, he would like to try to fit the bill. And that's more that's more texture to it. It's a little bit deeper than, oh, I want to be right. It's a little bit deeper than, oh, I just don't know what right is. It's like, I am drowning in a void.
Right. I am wrong. I know what right is. Why am I not right?
Well, no. It's I'm wrong.
End.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Again, the fucking Daredevil writers get excited about new characters. Mm-hmm. And then these new characters are so flushed out,
so good.
and they're well. Also, Fisk was great this season, but I think they got to take a break from him season 2, so they had time to go. What are we gonna do? Mm-hmm. And Matt is a stone in the ocean, which I think is on point. I just am not enjoying it. I mean, I'm not asking for your help. I'm just saying there's nothing. Experience.
I'm not going to.
I think this is what's happening with Netflix shows.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. As somebody on the opposite side, I wish you were on my side.
But
the grass is so green.
It's the strangest thing for me to be going. Well, they're being as comic accurate as they can, and I'm not enjoying it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a weird dichotomy that. Like, it's a weird line that they're trying to walk as best they can, but even the best will fall sometimes.
Yeah, I'm just so conscious of how much they are trying to be true to the Matt Murdock
story.
Character. Like the word's not going to come to me because it's late. I would have been shocked if you told me at the beginning of season 1 they're going to be as true as they can to this thick-headed, tightly wound guy who wants to change but can't, and by season 3 you will be over it. But that's where I find myself.
And if that's where you find yourself, that's it.
Where are we at? How does it end?
So season 3, episode 12. Previous episode, Daredevil has told Bullseye that Kingpin had his one remaining tie to...
Her name was Mary?
Julia. His one remaining tie was murdered by Wilson Fisk to make Bullseye more manageable. And then he tells Bullseye that Kingpin is getting married and that he doesn't think he deserves a happy ever after. Bullseye takes off because he is trying to kill Vanessa, Kingpin's betrothed, so that he will experience the same pain.
Yeah.
Yada. Daredevil is on a mission to kill Wilson Fisk. He sees that there's one way for this to end. He's going to make that happen. Foggy comes up with a plan to take down Daredevil, and he's trying to take down Kingpin, and he's trying to talk to Matt in order to get him to not make that last step. It's super good.
Yeah.
It is very
big fight breaks out at the wedding.
Big fight breaks out. There's a dying declaration that gets sent out to everybody at this wedding, which was weird.
By whom?
It gets sent out by Foggy.
He's dying?
No. The dying declaration is from Special Agent Nassim, who is the FBI agent whom Wilson got close to in the beginning so that he could use him.
Oh, he dies.
He dies.
Yeah.
I thought he died in episode 11. But regardless.
He might have anyway.
He passes. He creates this video before he dies, and it's his dying declaration. It is admissible in court, and he sends it to everyone. Or he sends it to his wife. His wife gives it to Foggy. Foggy gives it to Karen. Karen gives it to everyone.
She got her job back?
Tenuous.
All right. I thought that was bullshit.
I agree. I get where you're coming from. There was a weird choice made there. Karen has gotten.
I love that editor, and then he did that, and I was like, come on.
Yeah.
What are we doing? You're setting her up on blind dates, but then she won't do this because she has, what's the word, buddy? I'm tired. Not standards. She has...
Morals?
Moral, yeah.
Yeah.
She's taking a moral stand. You have a problem with that? Isn't that what you love about her?
Yeah. I don't,
Sorry.
Well, I
don't want to get bogged
in the
down in
season,
that
there
conversation.
have been issues that stemmed from Karen stopping at nothing to take down Fisk. So, and other people have gotten hurt. So sometimes you have to be the bad guy.
Okay.
That's
not a disregarding. Okay, that's me going. If we're in the writer room, going. Yep. All right. Fine. Put it in.
Yeah.
Put that down.
We need to get to. We need to get to episode 12.
I want to go home tonight, man.
But a big fight breaks out. Daredevil ends up not killing Kingpin. He stops. Kingpin stops Bullseye by crushing his back, like breaking his spine.
Oh,
yeah.
You know if that's a reference?
Yes,
Okay.
I do, because they follow up with it at the very end.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I'm gonna watch it. Don't worry.
So, Daredevil he threatens Vanessa in that if Kingpin tries to get out of prison again, Daredevil is going to kill Vanessa. Well, not murder, but she is admissible to some of his crimes because she's ordered a hit.
This is a Bendis reference.
The scene itself is so comic booky; it had to have come from there.
Yeah.
But Vanessa has made herself. What is it? She aided and abetted.
Right.
She ordered a hit.
She's an accomplice.
Correct. That's the word. So she's an accomplice to a crime. She ordered a hit.
People out there, if you're going to have a podcast, have someone who's got your back.
Yeah.
I don't know a word. He's got me.
I don't know a word.
Hey, guess what? Accomplice.
Zach knows that word. So he is basically threatening that if Kingpin does anything, Vanessa's going to jail, and she's not going to last in prison. And then the season ends. Well, the season ends with Bullseye getting surgery done on his spine, and then his eye opens up and you see the Bullseye symbol from the light.
Well, what'd you think about the Bullseye Matt fight scenes?
I adored them.
One of these? Mwah?
Yeah.
Just kiss at your fingers?
Oh, it was...
Yeah. I agree.
My compliments to the chef.
What do you think about Matt not in the suit this season?
Loved every second of it.
I disagree. And I feel like it was a weird fan reaction. I feel like people don't like the cookie suit. And really? I feel like...
I thought people loved that suit.
I thought so too. But I taking a page out of my friend Vince's book, I feel like reading between the lines, him not being in the suit the whole season. While there was a logic thing to it, I have no problem. Like, of course. Like
right. You gotta separate your characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't have the Spider-Man meme.
I'm worried that they don't like the suit. And then putting Melvin in jail makes me feel even more like if we do get a season 4, which I feel like is a massive if.
Yeah. Like, it's not even a massive if. We're not going to get a season 4.
You're probably right.
Or if we do, it'll be on Disney's streaming service.
You think even that?
Yeah, I think so.
Because it'll be Disney.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think that they would have... I think that because of all the properties that they're accumulating, I think that there will be, like, an age-restricted section, and that's where...
I hope so, from your mouth to God's south. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think those fight scenes, I really think they nailed a really good dynamic of the second it was close quarters, Bullseye was at
the disadvantage.
Yeah.
And then from
anytime there was
range,
distance,
yeah,
Matt was in trouble.
I also love that Matt picked up on Bullseye's thing immediately. Mm-hmm. Because he started throwing everything, he's hitting all these insanely accurate shots.
It's this funny thing, buddy, that I was thinking about while I was watching it because I knew we were going to talk about it for the podcast. I was just last week talking to you about how the realistic fighting is a bit of a kryptonite in Daredevil, and then I'm watching season 3, and I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, I love it. I was listening back to episode 2 when I was editing it, and I was like, we really liked those Titan scenes, and then I watched the first, the big fight scene with Daredevil, not the one where he's fighting Bullseye. And I was like, no, we were wrong. Because this scene is so good.
Well, there's a narrative to those fight scenes.
Right.
Now, there's a narrative to every fight scene.
Yes. Yeah.
And
or every good fight scene.
Yes. And I'm not saying that the Titan ones don't have a narrative. But there's something about the narrative in the Daredevil fight scenes. It's the difference between a limerick and a sonnet.
Right.
And you know, you don't always feel like reading a sonnet. Sometimes it's boring.
Yeah, there was a man from Nantucket.
But yeah, sometimes a limerick is like, come on, get me there.
Yeah.
And which is, they're both art forms. And they're both legitimate, and they both will get you there, if that's what you're looking for. And I mean, you know, not for nothing, they're writing sonnets over there on the Daredevil stunt crew.
It's like watching John Wick.
It really is.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
But they're so cognitive of and again, I was saying last week that this is a weakness, and I'm saying this week net positive. They're so cognitive of the toll it would take physically.
Yeah,
you know,
because that's the universe that they're in. Like we like Titans fight scenes because they're apropos of the universe that they live in. But you have this more grounded Marvel street level universe that takes its toll. Every punch uses stamina. Every time you get hit, it gets a little bit harder to stand up.
I don't want to speak for you, but whenever we're comparing them, I don't think either of us is saying it's apples and oranges.
Right. I don't think we compare them.
I think both of us, well, when we bring them up in the same breath,
right.
I think both of us are going, this is why this works here, and this is why it works here. And this is why, heck, sometimes it doesn't work here. Like, I was listening to the second episode, and I don't think I was getting across enough. I feel like the first fight scene with Robin, we're fucking talking about Titans. Yeah. I don't care, I have to get this out. I feel like the first fight scene with Robin, the way they cut it, I think feels like over-edited and doesn't feel as cool as other fight scenes in that show.
Yes.
Because of the fuck Batman of it all.
Right.
But and the reason I bring that up is because the rest of the fight scenes for me, pound for pound, were so much fun to watch. Whereas, and I said in the second episode, all these hard cuts are rough. And what I mean by that is you see a fist flying into a face, cut to a leg flying into a gut, cut to something flying into the air and hitting a guy in the face, and these very, very quick half-second reaction shots to action that is occurring that doesn't feel very fluid, and you can't really track the choreography.
No, you just know somebody's getting hurt.
Exactly. So when I say, especially in that context, when I'm saying hard cuts, I'm talking about that. Just, bam, this is happening. Bam, this is happening. Bam, this is happening.
Right.
Not as opposed to, but when you consider the fight,
alternative.
These one shot, no
takes.
cuts.
Yeah. Well, I think that there were some cuts, but I think that they were split up, like with
as opposed to you could almost there's like 4 or 5 cuts in the Daredevil scenes.
Well, no, I mean like even the scenes that they look as if they're strung together as one cut. I believe that there are multiple cuts because you have like the blinking lights and like the rolling around different settings.
Continuity.
But, yes, but the continuity that they build in these fights makes it seem like it's one long take. And like I'm a pretty big fan of like old Jackie Chan movies, and that's one thing that he would do is you would do one long take, and if you messed up, you would start it
just
over.
do it again,
exactly,
and then with like an ocean, like a tide coming in, like we'll get a little further every time, and at the end of the day, we'll have this big chunk of stuff that we can pull the cool shit
carve
from.
out a Grand Canyon.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, I know that the Grand Canyon wasn't carved by the ocean, but we know.
That's how Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings. He had no plan.
You watched a bunch of Jackie Chan movies?
No. Number one,
I think your timeline's off.
Positive he was a Bruce Lee fan. No, he would just write. And he would hit a wall, keep writing, and then if he wrote himself into a thing where this thing that happened way down the timeline didn't make sense with this, he would just go back and make this work with this.
Correct.
Make A work with B. If A happened way before B, and now A doesn't make sense, we'll change A.
Yeah.
Because B needs to fucking happen. Because that's pushing it forward.
Right.
Which is a probably frustrating way to write.
Yeah.
But a fascinating one because everything has to pay off. or you make it just not matter.
Right.
Which is a lot of what Tolkien did. Not to start. I know we're talking about Daredevil, but like a lot of what Tolkien did was sometimes if A didn't make sense with B, if something that happened way before didn't make sense with B, he would kind of go, "So that happened." Anyways,
so well, let's get into recommendations. I believe that we're of the same mind that season 1 Daredevil is something that most people should check out.
Yeah, I would say it's a. You ever seen Real Genius? It's a moral imperative. You need to watch the first season of Daredevil. Let me get this right out of the way. You need to watch all of Daredevil. Right. So that you could talk to me and Vince about it. Yes, we want to talk to you about it.
Please talk to us at nerdy_pod on Twitter.
A shameless plug on our own podcast. But I would recommend it all. And I feel like we're bearing the lead because I kind of already said the ones I recommend the most. Mm-hmm. Number 1, I'm going to stay away from season 3. I need some more time to marinate on it, and I need to experience the complete piece. Mm-hmm. Season 1 and 2. Season 1 I probably have watched the entire thing probably 3 or 4 times. And season 2, probably 3, if not more. So I've had time to process.
Right.
Season 1. Whatever episode, the infamous hallway
fight. Yes.
You gotta watch that.
Yes.
Oh, and you gotta watch episode 1 because it really delivers as a pilot.
100%.
And I'm a guy who has a hard time with first seasons of shows and pilots. I'm very, very critical a lot of the time. The pilot's
we can
great.
tell because we recorded a pilot that nobody will ever hear.
Excellent point. Yes. The pilot's great of season 1. Other standout episodes for me, Vince, you're gonna be mad that I don't know the numbers or the names of the episode. Not. Whatever episode he fights Yakuza guy. Whatever episode the vignette that I was talking about earlier with the blind Chinese guy singing to himself. Mm-hmm. Something we didn't mention that I just want to say, just to nerd. Certify myself is the drug bags that Madame Gao puts is the dragon
from Iron Fist
from the 8th city, the Hell City, which really made me even more excited for Iron Fist.
Yeah.
And boy, oh boy, did that not pan out great. That made me think they're going to definitely talk about the 8 cities. Like that made me so horny for that.
Maybe in season 3.
Oh,
too soon. Okay, so we have season 1. Obviously, you should watch all of Daredevil.
Season 2,
episode 1 of season 1, the fight scene, the Yakuza scene. Season 2, I think the first episode is something you should also watch, where you see Punisher punish. The rooftop scene,
which is episode 3,
and it is a masterclass.
Yeah, episode 3 don't miss because it also has a kind of a rooftop-y fight, or the hallway Russian fight scene because Matt has to fight an entire gang of bankers.
Yeah,
bankers.
Yeah, he just goes down to Wall Street. And he's like, you know what? You guys have had it too good for too long.
They come running at him
in their 3-piece suits,
calculators. They have abacuses.
They're throwing their pocket protectors.
No, bikers.
Bikers, I believe, is his actual opponent. What are some good Elektra episodes? The college episode is also something that's very good for character building.
Yeah, and I actually think a little bit more for Matt than Elektra in that episode because it's a younger Matt, and it's a Matt who at that point in the show, because season 3 has some weird reveals that I didn't get into, I had having an issue with because they felt too nitpicky. It starts really flirting with that fire that makes him Daredevil. It's the feeling in those scenes is that Elektra is introducing him to this world that he has access to and chooses not to.
Right.
And clearly makes him feel something.
Yeah. She's the half of his life that he hasn't embraced yet.
Yeah, I don't not want to say this. It's Matt has this, let's just call it power. Mm-hmm. You know, he can handle himself in a fight, and that's an understatement. I'm sorry for all the breaks, people. He's an extremely gifted warrior. And there's got to be something you can do with that, which he's not been accessing. He's been really focusing on being a lawyer, and Elektra introducing him to that by means of vengeance for his father's death. Mm-hmm. And then him choosing to take the high road. And the tax that draws from him emotionally as a character, but also how he feels when he comes out on the other side of that in that episode, is so defining for that character and so well written and displayed to us in that episode that not only should you not miss it, it's essential if you're watching this show.
Right. It's something that it needs to be addressed and you need to experience it.
Yeah, because if you're not, there's a bigger part of the picture that you are missing.
Right, you're hamstringing yourself.
Yeah. Because there's Matt's middle ground is not a thing he does because he's indecisive. It's quite the opposite.
No, it's who he wants to be.
And it's him imposing his will and point of view in the world, and it's his. Mm-hmm. It's not Styx. It's not God's. It's not the laws. And Elektra introduces him to that world in that episode.
Right. Moving into season 3. Perhaps an unpopular opinion. You should watch every episode of season 3.
No, just watch the Bullseye one and then the end.
You should watch every episode because it is.
We can talk about the mom stuff. Drama. What do you land on the mom stuff?
I'm completely fine with it.
I roll.
Why? What was wrong with it? It gives Matt more depth. It shows that the infallible are fallible. He had this apotheosis of his mother where he saw her as a god and that she could do nothing wrong. She's introduced to him as this seemingly uncaring nun who's only there to stitch him up when he gets into a fight with other kids. But then it turns out that she was keeping this secret because she was dealing with things. I think that was a fantastic relationship that they built.
I think on paper it looks great, and I think in practice it is a drudgery.
Really?
Yes.
Man, okay. Well,
especially if you've read the comics and you're like, yeah, I get it. It's his mom.
That's an area that we are going to disagree on heavily.
That was one of the rougher parts of season 3 for me. Is that whole. This might come up again, so I'll call it what I called it when we were talking about Titans. That whole Jason Bourne thing. Of it's one thing where I'm waiting to find out how cool you are, and it's another thing when I already know, and I'm waiting for you to find out.
Right.
And dramatic irony will only go so far with this viewer. Right. Thank you very much. So, I mean, it's like we both really love Daredevil.
Yeah.
And recommend it to anyone who's listening. If you're listening to this show and you haven't watched Daredevil, I feel like me and Vince are both saying,
please watch Daredevil.
Check out Daredevil.
Please.
It's at least worth talking about with your nerdy buddy. Yeah. Especially if you had a neighbor.
Mm-hmm. So, nerdy things we did this week. So, Zach.
Buddy, I had a renaissance this week.
Uh-oh.
I've watched all of season 1 of Young Justice. And I have so much I want to talk about.
Man, after my own boner.
I don't know how a show could have more of what I want. And it's not like, I want to make clear to any people who don't know me personally listening, I'm not that much of a DC boy. Now, I love all comics. Mm-hmm. But there's not a lot of very specific things I'm looking for from that show, and yet somehow they are giving it to me.
Yep.
There are very specific expectations I didn't even know I had until that show presents them to me. Okay, so I'm watching season 1. There are some episodes I could watch over and over and over again. One of them is the episode where Artemis and Robin are fighting the tornado brother and sister. And so they are freaking out. They're crawling through the vents halfway through the episode. And Robin, Dick Grayson, has a map of the cave. And
the headquarters,
and they just watched a security camera footage of the rest of the team possibly dying. And Artemis says, "How are you so calm right now?" And I'll be damned if Dick doesn't say very offhandedly, "I've been doing this since I was 9 years old." Buddy.
It's perfection. The show itself has no bad episode.
Let's talk about Failsafe. All right. So Failsafe is the episode where they're doing training. They're doing the psychic training, and Artemis dies, and Matt. So in this episode, folks, if you haven't seen it,
if you haven't seen Young Justice, go watch Young Justice before you watch Daredevil.
100%.
Yes.
Folks, you can't see the look on my face, but it is one of true dire, you need to. Mm-hmm. But so they're doing a training. In the episode, we're not introduced to it as training. This alien ship shows up and is killing the Justice League. 3 powerhouses fly out of a spaceship to meet this Superman, Green Lantern, the Martian Manhunter. Zapped, they're dead.
Yep.
And it's basically, spoiler alert. It's a doomsday scenario. Every time the scenario is designed to get worse, to see how people will deal with failure, to see how the team will deal with failure. It's a Kobayashi Maru, Star Trek fans. But something happens, and it's a psychic scenario, and one of the team members dies, and the person, a psychic member of the team, Miss Martian, who is involved in the scenario, snaps and psychically affects the scenario to where everyone forgets they're in a training scenario and they think it's real. At the end of that episode, it's the only team members that are alive are Robin, Dick Grayson, Kid Flash, Wally West, and Miss Martian. And they go on a suicide mission to blow up the mothership.
Right.
And at one point at the end of the fight, at the end of the mission, they have their bombs set at the heart of the mothership. And they're surrounded by enemy drones. And Miss Martian and her uncle, the Martian Manhunter, yep. Johns, can turn intangible. Mm-hmm. So Dick is like, "Leave, we're right behind you." And they leave. And lasers are flying. And Wally and Dick are behind a wall. And buddy, do they say anything to each other? After going, "Guys, get out, we're right behind you." Do they go, "Hey, that was the plan"? Do they do? No. They look at each other knowingly. They look at each other knowingly. They both nod. They go around the corner of the wall. And they charge at the bad guys. And then the mothership blows up. Dude.
It's
I got tears in my eyes.
So good.
It's so good.
The show itself is so... It's wonderful. Like, there's no other word to describe it. It is a wonderful show.
And if you'd have told me, hey, they're going to do this kind of T-Titan show, and Aquaman's sidekick is probably going to be your favorite character.
Yeah.
He will have maybe the most depth. I'd have been like, get the fuck out of my house. But Aqualad,
I don't know if we can save up enough money to buy a time machine so I can actually go back in time to all these scenarios and tell you these things.
Yeah, and every time get kicked in the nuts and be told to get out of my house. Because it is Aqualad, man. Caldor. Mm-hmm. Son of Black Manta. Who knew? I didn't when I started watching that show.
Now you start out.
Yeah.
You find out
later
on.
I'm not a DC boy. Mm-hmm. I bet you I would have. known. Nerdy things I did this week. Number one with a bullet.
Young Justice.
Young Justice season 1. Watched it a lot.
Okay.
A lot.
Anything else?
We did Dungeons and Dragons last Friday.
Okay. How was
it? A lot of fighting.
A lot of fighting.
Yeah.
Okay.
My character.
You made up for all the fighting that you didn't do in the previous session.
We without going into details, we got into a dungeon scenario. We walked through this hallway. We all felt like this body kind of. I'm gonna say to you, body changing spell. But we walked through the hallway and we all felt like something happened to us physically. Mm-hmm. We got through the end of the hallway and we were on a kitchen table, and there was a teacup and a saucer with a cookie.
Did you get Alice in Wonderland?
Yes.
Okay.
It was humongous.
That's awesome.
And there were these giant ants on one side of the cookie. And we were going to inspect the cookie. And then all of a sudden, this massive bee flies out of inside the tea. Shit went down. But my character got on top of the bee, cut its wings off. My sweet lady had done this spell called Dagger Cloud or something like that. It basically just makes this big cloud of daggers. Mm-hmm. So, dude, after I cut its wings off, I aimed for the cloud of daggers.
You just Dr. Strangelove it?
Not even.
Okay.
Because it was more like Legolas.
All right.
Because I can do 2 moves because of where I'm at. Right. So I aimed it for the thing and I fucking backflipped off.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome. Because I have a magic jump attack, so I wasted 1 turn just jumping on him. Mm-hmm. And it was like, whoa! While I waited for everybody else. Yeah. And, probably some other people did some cool stuff, but that was the cool stuff I did during D&D.
I understand it.
That'll wrap up my nerdy stuff I did this week. I watched a lot of other weird things on YouTube, but nothing as thematic as Young Justice Season 1, which I barely scratched the surface of. We should do a Young Justice episode.
Yeah, that'll probably be something.
It's just a love fest. Oh. You know what? If we do a Young Justice episode, that's the episode we should have my brother on for.
Okay. Yeah, that works.
Because he was the one who turned me on to that.
JoJo?
Yeah, JoJo.
All right. Man. I didn't do a lot of nerdy stuff this week.
What's up with the soap opera?
I haven't worked on it this week.
No.
Oh, so we are in November, which is NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month. Mm-hmm. So if anybody is currently going along with that, make sure that you're posting your goals to the website. And if you need any help or inspiration, I'd love to be of any assistance I can. Hit us up on the Twitter.
nerdy_pod. We will help and assist.
Yeah.
Most of the events. But I will be supportive. So
I've been watching a lot of video essays on YouTube, just going over stuff. There's a
Jesus, man, don't be so specific. You're going to lose people.
Yeah. If you like anime, there's a video essayist named Alexander, spelled weird, but just type it in and see if you can find it. He has a really cool series of videos on Berserk, which is a really good anime. And then there's another YouTube channel called Screen Prism, which does dissections of pop culture shows and stuff like that.
Screen Prism? I actually follow. What was the first one?
It's Alexander. That being said, there are a couple of things.
What kind of video essays? What do you mean? I was making fun of you before when I said be more specific.
Oh.
Because that was very broad.
Oh, I'm sorry. So he does breakdowns of shows and specific characters. I would highly recommend checking out his Berserk.
Like the Nando V Movies thing you had me check out?
Nando V Movies is a different thing. He changes stuff to make stuff better. Alexander just breaks down what already exists and the themes and elements that go into everything that makes it up.
It's a hardcore analysis.
Yes, significant. Yeah,
it's not. Here's my creative spin on this.
No. It's just that's the thing we both watched.
Here's a clinical breakdown.
Yes,
I see.
Yeah, he has a.
What do you get out of stuff like that? Is it more just learning? Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. That's a good way to say it. It's not you saying, "Oh, it's validating things I already knew." It's like, "Oh, I didn't think about that."
Yeah, exactly.
It's cool to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He has a lot of videos on one of my favorite animes called Hunter x Hunter.
Ooh.
And his thoughts on it are very eye-opening. Very cool. But
that's awesome, man. I love stuff like that. That's right up my alley.
If you want to find a way to waste a couple hours, if you're susceptible to YouTube holes, Alexander is a great way to
Well, I tried to do this once a podcast, and I'm going to do it this time. You know what I love about you is, like, you go, "Oh, no, I like this because I learned something." Mm-hmm. I'm not being told things that I already know. It's not validating my pre-existing opinion. Here's why you should listen to this, because he thinks the same thing I do. No. It's you going like, "Oh, no, this is eye-opening for me. It shines a new light on things I already enjoyed."
Right. Echo chambers don't do anybody any good. But I think that's it for nerdy things we did this week. So let's...
Boy, that was a short one this week.
Yeah. Well, maybe next week I'll try and do some more.
Well, also...
I should be back in my...
We shouldn't talk too much about Young Justice, because we should do a Young Justice episode.
Okay.
So, because it's coming too.
Yeah.
It's coming around soon. All right. Well, let's do your homework first, and we'll do mine.
Okay. Sure. So, last week, it wasn't on the podcast because for the second week in a row, my homework wasn't on the podcast. He texted me a couple days later. But you had me read the first volume of X Factor.
I'm making Vince read a text message right now from my friend who listened to the second episode.
Oh.
Could you read that out
But
loud?
You never gave Vince homework, yes.
Yeah. So we have one fan, and he wrote in and was like, "Dude, what the hell?
What are you doing here, bud? It's supposed to be a thing."
Forky, we love you.
So you had me read The Longest Night, X Factor Volume 1.
Yeah. So let's put in some context.
Sure. So X Factor Volume 1 takes place in Mutant Town, which is an area of sort of safe haven for mutants that have or have not lost their mutant abilities in the wake of M-Day.
So this is right after House of M.
Correct.
So basically 98% of mutants have lost their power.
Yes. We follow the titular X Factor, which is a private investigation firm that deals in mutant interactions and things of that nature.
Man for everybody, I'm making a drink.
Son of a bitch. It's helmed by Jamie Madrox, the Multiple Man.
You're doing a good job. I'll be right back.
Guido, the Strong Guy. Wolfsbane, Siren. And then Monet. They bring in...
Okay, real quick. Now that you mentioned Wolfsbane, remember when we were
talking about how that she was Native American and it turns out she's actually Irish?
She's Scottish.
Scottish, that's what I meant.
And who you were thinking of is Dani Moonstar.
That's who I was thinking.
Yes.
Son of a gun.
She's also known as Mirage.
Mm-hmm.
So...
An M is nothing but a upside down W.
But okay, so if anyone's listening and going, "Oh, these guys don't know what they're talking about," no. Sometimes two fellas...
Listen, yeah, we're not experts in our field. We like the things that we like, and we like talking about them. That's all we claim.
Okay, not what I was going to say. Here's what I was going to say is, we're experts, one of us is drunk, and the other one's excited. So leave us alone.
Right.
Conversations aren't perfect.
Yeah.
And that's me.
We hope that you will join us in our conversations.
Yeah.
And if you know stuff that we don't, if we got something wrong, please call us out. We want nothing more than to learn from our mistakes.
Go to nerdy_pod. We're probably also going to do a Facebook thing soon because a lot of my friends have gone, "Why haven't you made a Facebook page?"
Yeah.
But go to nerdy_pod. Say, "Hey guys, Rain's Scottish. You're thinking of Dani Moonstar."
Yeah.
So that one of us doesn't have to listen to the first episode. Also,
if you have another favorite Native American X-Men, let us know.
But that's it. Yeah. Don't tell us anything else.
Yeah, I don't want to hear anything about a German American. Get out of here with your Anglo-Saxon nonsense. Just kidding. We want to hear from everybody. So, X Factor, Volume 1, The Longest Night. We followed...
Overall thoughts. No. Don't break it down first.
Gotcha.
Not a fan. Not a fan.
Not a fan.
No.
The art style. I didn't enjoy the art style. I felt as though...
My mouth is agape.
Yeah, I felt as though it was too busy, and that at times it looked like somebody just pulled up pictures of... Like, somebody just Googled crowds and then traced the images. And that could be some people's thing. That's completely viable. The writing in it was fantastic. Peter David,
yeah, he's a crusher.
Fantastic writing.
Yeah.
The way that he wrote out Multiple Man, who is already a character who I very much adore. Like I've read other Multiple Man. I've read about Multiple Man in other stories, and he's always been somebody who I'm like, that guy is like the most powerful mutant ever. Yeah. And we're not going to address that he can know everything at all times.
Forky, future guest of the show. It's his... I don't want to speak for him. Mm-hmm. He might listen to this and be pissed off that I said this, but I feel like we've had multiple conversations where he said to me, if I could pick a superpower, it would be that.
Yeah.
I would send a guy out to learn German. I would send a guy out to learn Kung Fu.
So that's the beautiful thing about it. So Multiple Man's powers don't just create an exact duplicate of him, because then you have the whole who's the real one issue. They all know that they're duplicates, but they're also varying parts of his personality. And the way that we're introduced to his duplicates is he sends somebody out who he thinks is empathetic and charming and helpful, because the former mutant known as Richter is contemplating suicide, and this duplicate ends up not being empathetic.
No,
he ended up lying.
Yeah,
and
he has designs.
Right, and he pushes Richter off.
It's a complicated book, folks.
Yeah, I don't want the point of me not enjoying this book to stop anybody from giving it a chance. I think that there are more people that will like this book than do not like this book.
The point of the show is that we critique.
Right, there are going to be things that we like, there are going to be things that we don't like, but that is it's two neighbors' opinions.
Don't apologize. Right. That's all I'm saying.
But I feel like it was well written in a ton of ways. Mm-hmm. I just couldn't separate the art style, the actual drawings themselves, and that's my hang-up. I run into that issue with a lot of comics.
It's huge to me that you can say that, but also are going, there's something about this writing though that's
it's wonderful.
Did you finish the book? Did you get bored?
No, I finished the entire thing. Even if I don't like something, if I'm given a task, I'll
okay.
So Jamie's powers were wonderful. Like I love the idea of going into something being, that's an amazing power, I want that, and then instantly having the table turn, and it's just, that's dreadful, because there are parts of my personality that are way deep down low, and that if one of them crawled to the surface could ruin my life.
But also having to deal with it in such a tangible way.
Correct.
It's one thing to kind of not so much that it's inside all of us, but that we all have the potential for it. Mm-hmm. It's there. Right. Brains are complicated, big things. And because these thoughts are there, does it define you? And for Jamie, it's very palpable.
Right. It's something that
he can create a version of himself, exactly, that he has to interact with.
Yep.
And then he has to deal with the fact that that's inside of him. It's easy for us, who doesn't have to talk to a murderous version of ourselves, to go, oh, that's not a thing. I'm just thinking that brains are complicated.
Yeah.
But for Jamie, it's tangible. It's a guy he's talking to who has his face. Yeah, I don't know.
I get where you're coming from.
It's a fun book.
Yeah, the other thing that really grabbed me was Richter, who, talking about his powers.
See,
that hit me hard.
Yeah,
because that instantly puts in my head, oh, is that how every mutant felt.
Yes, it is.
Like that, like they had this connection that was just stripped from them.
To me, it feels akin to. So you, we're friends, and you're a creative person who has a perspective.
Yeah,
and we are able to talk about things in a way that's at least satisfying to us. And it's if something somehow you woke up and that perspective was taken from you. You were still Vince. Mm-hmm. You still love your girlfriend. You still love your dog. You still go to your job. You still have all your intelligence and stuff. But there is a je ne sais quoi. There is a spark of your personality that was just
gone.
Just gone. We couldn't do this podcast,
and you could remember it.
Yes,
like that's the worst thing for me is
brother
that he won't be able to experience it anymore.
Yeah,
and that every time he remembers it, it's going to diminish a little bit.
Brother, you nailed it.
It was
powerful.
Such a big thing.
Peter David, you're not wrong.
It was really good.
Yeah,
really good. So overall, I would give X Factor maybe a 7 out of 10. The story is fantastic. 10 out of 10. If it was a book, I would read the book. It was a comic book, I read the comic book. But overall, not something I will revisit. Most likely not.
Okay.
Your homework, Zach.
My homework was We Three by Grant Morrison.
Yes.
All right.
I am chomping at the bit.
I'm really sorry to tell you this.
Oh no.
So you sent me a text the other day, and you said, "Did you finish your homework?"
Yes.
And I said, "Yes." You'll be surprised what I have to say. I forgot my homework was We Three. So when I answered that question,
right,
it was about Nailbiter. It was about Nailbiter. And so then for the last 2 days, you have given me access to We Three.
Yes. I
can't access it. So then what I did yesterday was I went to Barnes & Noble and I bought it because I had a $20 gift card to Barnes & Noble.
Okay.
Haven't finished it.
Okay. Where are you at?
Not far. So we can't talk about my homework this week, but here's why. Hold on. Guys, my podcast host is holding his face.
Literally.
So here's why I wanted to do this on pod.
I want to get a ruler and wrap your knuckles.
Here's why.
Because you refuse to do homework. You refuse to give homework.
No.
I was so
Here's why I wanted to do this on pod. Here's why I wanted to do this on pod. Because this is part of the nerdy neighbors thing. So, buddy, this is what I'm like sometimes. I get confused. Mm-hmm. And then I fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I overcorrect where I go out and I buy the book.
Yeah.
So I'm going to finish it later.
Okay.
You can give me other homework this week.
I will.
And then
I'm going to text you every day.
No. Here's the other thing.
Yes. What's up?
My homework for you has been things that you could watch on Netflix and things that you can watch on Netflix Unlimited.
Right.
And your homework for me has all been things I have to purchase.
Listen, I tried to rectify that situation.
That didn't work.
I will figure out a way to make that work.
And I will show you off mic.
Yes.
How bad that didn't work.
Okay.
I tried several different angles on it. And there was that one point yesterday evening where I was like, just going to go downstairs and be like, just give me whatever device you can let me have this on. This will take me 2 hours.
Right.
And then I was like, no, I'll just buy it at Barnes & Noble's tomorrow, which is what I did this evening. Mm-hmm. And I read it this evening as I was doing my second job, but I didn't finish it.
Okay.
And
I forgive you.
Yeah, you should. Because I have spent upwards of $70 on your homework.
Okay.
I'm close to $100 on homework.
I told you to read one issue of Nailbiter.
You're right.
Of your own volition, although I will admit, maybe I baited you a bit because Nailbiter is a very addictive series.
No, but I'm making a very legitimate face, listeners of the podcast. He did not assign me $60 of
Yeah, I would
That was on me.
Never, ever on my life do that. If you would have asked, I would have just given Nailbiter to you. So, all is forgiven. All is understood. I am excited. Next week, maybe after the news, we can address.
I make you the solemn
what you think
promise
about week 3.
Is if I ever find myself behind again or anything like that, I will tell you pre-pod. But I wanted to do this on pod.
Yeah.
I wanted to do this classic Zach moment. And anyone who's listening to this podcast, if they don't know me or do know me, this is a good character learning moment.
My chest hurts.
Oh, look at him rubbing.
My chest hurts.
Here's the thing.
My heart.
I love Grant Morrison. I'm excited to read this book.
I
really, really, really want to read this book.
You'll enjoy the book.
There are...
Okay. Zach.
I know what my next homework for you is.
Give me some homework. What do you got?
I have 2 options.
Okay.
That are depending on... have you seen any of FX's Legion?
Yes, I've seen all of FX's Legion.
Shit. Alright, my second thing is nerdy, but it's going to be a little bit outside of our oeuvre.
Okay.
Because I'm a bit of a nerd about
comedy. Is that the second time we've used oeuvre this episode?
I hope so.
Okay.
I'm a
Here's
bit of
your nerdy neighbor word of the week. Oeuvre.
I'm a bit of a nerd about comedy.
Okay.
And there's some comedy stuff I'd love to talk to you about.
Sure. So
I'm going to assign you a episode. I'm going to ask for 24 hours to simmer on it. And if people are listening and are interested, I will post it on our Twitter.
Sure.
I'm going to assign you 1 episode of Comedy Bang Bang of my choosing.
Sure.
There are 3 in my nugget right now that I am simmering on. And whatever I decide, I will probably send you a direct link to you.
Now, is this the TV show version of Comedy Bang Bang or the podcast?
No, the podcast.
Okay.
No. TV show, I would never assign as homework. I would only just recommend.
All right, no worries.
As a friend. Do yourself a favor and watch that TV show because it is top notch.
Gotcha.
Go ahead. What's my homework this week? And keeping in mind that it would be so great if I didn't have to pay around $20 to get it.
Listen, I will guarantee you will pay $0 for your homework. Okay. I have a list. I have a list of homework.
I picked Morning Glories.
Okay.
I know that name. I've never read it.
So that's actually one of the shows about kids going to a school that's trying to kill them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Look at that.
All right. So next week, for me, we're going to talk about Morning Glories and We 3. Buddy, I feel like that was another episode of a podcast.
I believe you are correct that has been episode 3 of Nerdy Neighbors.
Guys, follow us on our Twitter.
Yes, please join the nerdy neighborhood is what I'm calling our fans.
I love it.
Yeah, I think that tracks.
Yeah. And we are desperate enough that if you say, "Hey, talk about a thing," we will talk about it.
Yeah. We have we need to address Battlestar and video games.
I want to do this on mic. Have you watched Battlestar?
I have not watched Battlestar. Watched any Battlestar.
Okay, this won't ever be a homework thing, but if we ever have Forker on, this would be an interesting journey to go on.
Perfect. Yeah. We can try and put our feelers out.
Buddy, I think it might be right up your alley.
I'm excited. So this has been your episode of Nerdy Neighbors.
We hope you enjoy it. This was my friend Vince.
That was my friend Zach. And we will talk to you guys next week.
All right, let's do our end of show reverse warm-ups.
Yep.
Hippo.
Rhinoceros.
That was a good one.